All right. So, um, I have been away for a couple days, taking some time for vacation and Thanksgiving and the holidays and everything, and so I haven't really had time to make a video. Uh, the last video that I had posted was a little premature, to say the least, um, solely for the fact that Donald Trump actually released a press release on Saudi Arabia. So the statement from Donald Trump on standing with Saudi Arabia starts off saying, "America first. The world is a very dangerous place. The country of Iran is an example is responsible for a bloody proxy war against Saudi Arabia and Yemen, trying to destabilize Iraq's fragile attempt at democracy, supporting the terror group Hezbollah in Lebanon, propping up dictator Bashar al-Assad in Syria, who has killed millions of his own citizens, and much more. Likewise, the Iranians have killed many Americans and other innocent people throughout the Middle East. Iran states openly and with great force, death to America, death to Israel. Iran is considered the world's leading sponsor of terror." So, I don't have to tell you that Saudi Arabia is probably one of the worst as far as murders go in the Middle East. There's over 15 million people in Yemen right now starving because Saudi Arabia has literally cut them off from any kind of supplies. Now, I'm, without even having to do the research, am going to go ahead and say this has only a little to do with Iran as much as it does the oil that Yemen possesses, or at least the pipeline that goes through it, which is in direct competition between Russia and Saudi Arabia. After my heavily negotiated trip to Saudi Arabia last year, the kingdom agreed to spend and invest $450 billion in the United States. This is a record amount of money. It will create hundreds of thousands of jobs, tremendous economic development. Excuse me. Tremendous economic development and much additional wealth for the United States. Of the $450 billion, $110 billion will be spent on the purchase of military equipment from Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and many other great U.S. defense contractors. Now, this was one thing that I was very interested in, solely for the fact that because Saudi Arabia decided to dump all this money onto the U.S. military industrial complex, and you also have to consider the record amount of $700 billion. Okay? That's over $1 trillion. That's a lot of money for basically over the next, couple years. I think it was like over the span of 10 years or something. But nevertheless, that's a lot of money in defense, and that is essentially our number one export, which is why I think it's hilarious that you have all these kids out there that don't understand Second Amendment rights, and they're trying to ban the assault rifle and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, if you ban the assault rifle right now in today's climate, we'll be the only ones without them. Aside from Chinese and British, and I think a lot of European countries don't have access to assault rifles, but it's just ridiculous, and I see it all the time on social media and whatnot. But anyways, he released this. I'm gonna let you guys take a look at this. It's a very conclusive, I guess you could say. So anyways, there is that. Now, the other thing that I am going to show you guys is this. CIA concludes that Saudi Crown Prince ordered Khashoggi killed. So Donald Trump came out, as I said before, against, in support of Saudi Arabia, even though they murdered a journalist. Which, in Donald Trump's defense, if he just, if he had to defend all of his allies, right? He would have to come out and support, China and all these other countries that, which, by the way, China's not really one of our friends at this moment, but they kind of tolerate us. But the thing you have to look at is, all of the countries, all the major countries like Russia and a lot of the Eurasia countries, China, and I'm sure as much as we don't really hear about it, over in European countries as well, journalists are killed every day. And it's unfortunate, but at the same time, you have to understand, we're in the middle of an information war. The only people that, the only people that aren't attacked for the things that they say are those who, basically are either they're being paid by in some way or another off by these either corporations or government entities, which is why I'm highly skeptical of Alex Jones, even though he did bring to light a lot of different things that I don't think, or I would think, that he would have been killed over. So it's a very, very weird game. I mean, you look at what's happening with Julian Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy. He's been in there for 7 years. He got cut off to electricity. His health is absolutely awful, so they say. I still don't even know if he's a real person. But anyways, this is a video by the New York Times I'm going to play for you guys. Let me get over here. Go ahead and make this full screen for you.
Trap and waited for the target to arrive. That target was Jamal Khashoggi, a prominent Saudi critic of his country's government and its young crown prince.
He is creating an environment of intimidation and fear. Saudis are being silenced.
Since his killing in Istanbul, Turkish media has released a steady drip.
So here's the downside, right? So this guy is basically saying, look, Saudis are being silenced. Now, here's the problem, okay? You have the Saudi royal family, which is allowed to essentially do whatever they want all over the world. Same way that China and Russia have their, their spies and everything, and they get away with murder because they don't want the shit getting out. And then every time someone gets caught, then another country has leverage over them, and it becomes more and more. But my point is, this guy went to Saudi Arabia knowing that he's a target, okay, for activism against the royal family. You don't think that they're gonna kill your ass? So there's mistake number one. I'm gonna finish this.
Feed of evidence implicating Saudi officials. Weeks of investigation by the Times builds on that evidence and reconstructs what unfolded hour by hour. Our timeline shows the ruthless efficiency of a hit team of experts that seemed specially chosen from Saudi government ministries. Some had links to the Crown Prince himself. After a series of shifting explanations, Saudi Arabia now denies that this brazen hit job was premeditated. But this reconstruction of the killing and the botched cover-up calls their story into serious question. It's Friday morning, September 28th. Khashoggi and his fiancée, Hatice Cengiz, are at the local marriage office in Istanbul. In order to marry, he's told that he needs Saudi paperwork and goes straight to the consulate to arrange it. They tell him to return in a week. It all seems routine, but it's not. Inside, there's a Saudi spy, Ahmad al-Muzaini, who's working under diplomatic cover. That very day, he flies off to Riyadh and helps concoct a plan to intercept Khashoggi when he returns to the consulate. Fast forward to Monday night into Tuesday morning. Saudi agents converge in Istanbul aboard separate flights. Muzaini, the spy, flies back from Riyadh. A commercial flight carries a 3-man team that we believe flew from Cairo. 2 of the men are security officers, and they've previously travelled with the Crown Prince. A private jet flying from Riyadh lands around...
So I'm not going to play this whole video because it's almost 10 minutes long, but you guys get the point. Basically, Saudi Arabia, like every other country in the world, had this spy who needed this guy dead. Why is this so shocking? It's just the media, they blow it out of proportion. And then you have, what do you call it? You have other countries that are doing the same thing. Russia, China, even Germany. I mean, all of them have spies, some sort of central intelligence type, government organization. Here's another article that I found. It says the brutal truth behind Trump's love affair with Saudi Arabia. This is the Atlantic. They're very left-leaning, but I'm going to go ahead and give them a shot, see what they say. It says, today the President of the United States released a statement reaffirming his support for Saudi Arabia. Its regent, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, known as MBS. The process of separating the substance of the document from its mortifying seminal took me approximately 15 minutes, but I think I managed it without permanent damage to the Broca region of my brain. I don't see, this is the kind of stuff. It's like, if you're trying to communicate to people, why do you need to do this? Okay. This article is so awfully written. I'm not even going to conclude it or include it in the show notes. I'm just going to... There. All gone. This is a tweet that was put out by Donald Trump on November 20th, right after he put out the memoir or whatever. And I love all the, really shitty propaganda. Trump and the KKK, Trump and Putin, Trump bowing to Saudi Arabia, which he never did. Just a bunch of bull crap that doesn't even matter. But it's just funny how it's always at the top, So he posts America First. Now, for those that don't know, the dude just lowered oil prices by almost half, and they're still going down. So you have all this money all this capital that's gonna be coming out of oil, right? They're gonna start selling it, because if the price goes too low, then they're gonna lose their ass. Because who knows? Maybe it goes low for the next, for the rest of the Donald Trump's presidency. Maybe you need that money. but you just lost your ass. So all that money is going to flow into other areas of the market aside from oil, which is going to be great, because that means that you're going to see a ton of investment, because all these motherfuckers that are invested in oil, they don't want to lose their ass, and they're going to have to reinvest that money into the economy. So it's a win-win. Actually, it's a win for us in both ways. We pay less for oil, and capital goes into the economy. Now this, this guy writes, chilling picture, Salah Khashoggi, Jamal Khashoggi's son, being forced to meet and shake hands with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the man who ordered the torture, murder, and dismemberment of his father, to thank him for his condolences. Insanity. Now, it is very chilling, but at the same time, you also have to take into consideration to live in Saudi Arabia. Okay? You don't fuck with the royal family. Period. It's been that way forever. All you people who are making a big deal about this is just ridiculous. So, another interesting tweet that I found. This guy writes, Donald J. Trump, if U.S. were to break with Saudi Arabia, your oil prices would go through the roof. And this is true. This happened back in the 1970s. Saudi Arabia decided that, if America's going to be that way, well, then, get your own oil. And essentially, we started running out of oil. And so the oil prices skyrocketed, which now we don't have that problem because we export the energy rather than, we have an abundance of oil to where even if Saudi Arabia did break with us, I think that we would still have a significant amount of supply. But when you're looking at it on a global scale, I saw a tweet earlier this morning, and one of the guys said that it's $13 a barrel in Alberta, Canada. But because the shipping costs are so high, it's expensive. But if there's an easier way to ship it, then, it would be unbelievably cheap because they have so much. Moving along here. Germany issuing travel bans to 18 Saudis over Khashoggi's death. So now you have European countries that are involved because this journalist was killed. And again, every country has the right to do whatever they want within the laws that their country is bound to. If Saudi Arabia kills a journalist, if the Crown Prince kills a journalist, that has nothing to do with the United States laws, and therefore it is not illegal. So therefore it is none of our business. So please, to anyone that thinks that we should do something about this, you're insane. And Germany is insane for doing this, because there's no reason why they should even be involved. If they don't want people from Saudi Arabia coming into their country for fear that they're going to be killing their journalists, which I don't see why they would, because the laws are different and they'll know that they'll be prosecuted in some way or another. But hey, whatever you want to do, Germany, that's all you. This is Hotep Jesus. Says, tell them Saudi Arabia ain't got nothing to do with us. And you know what? Saudi Arabia ain't got nothing to do with us. So let Saudi Arabia do what they want to do. And we're going to do what we're going to do. And that's that. This is just a funny meme that I found. It says, Reuters says Mohammed bin Salman ordered Khashoggi's murder. Just got that stupid ass standard definition Pikachu meme. Treason Trump. He is siding with Saudi Arabia over American intelligence. Who order dismemberment of a reporter because Prince Mohammed bin Salman gave criminal Jared Kushner $500 million to save his Manhattan building. Wow. Did anybody know that? No. Nobody cares. That's why nobody knows that. Except for this guy. This guy apparently cares about what Saudi Arabia does with its money. Meanwhile, it's got $450 billion in fucking weapons sales from the United States, and he's worried about $500 million to Kushner. I don't even know if this is real. See, it doesn't even say that Kushner had $500 million for his Manhattan building. He just posted an article out of some magazine or some newspaper which nobody reads. Unbelievable. And the last thing that I'm going to leave you guys with is the significance or the real reason I believe that Saudi Arabia and the United States have essentially colluded on the oil prices. So I'm going to show you right now. Why the Russian economy rises and falls with oil. Russia is a major player in oil and gas production worldwide, is the second largest producer of natural gas and the third largest producer of oil, sitting on 80 billion barrels of proven oil reserves and a staggering 1,688 trillion cubic feet of natural gas reserves, the largest natural gas reserves in the world. Given the size of Russia's oil and gas assets, its position in world production, there is little doubt that the oil and gas prices have a large impact on its economy. In this article, we will analyze the impact of oil prices, both high and low, on the Russian economy. So, this article, let's see. Unfortunately, there's no year. I wish I knew what year this was from. It doesn't say, it just tells you who wrote it. In recent years, oil and gas revenues have made up nearly half of Russia's national budget. Oil and gas prices tend to have a stable relationship where the price of gas rises and falls with the prevailing price of oil. The correlation is weaker over some time periods and stronger in others, but has held over time. When oil prices are strong, the government budget grows and Russia spends on infrastructure, social programs, and other national investments like defense. Conversely, low oil prices shrink the national budget in proportion to the price drop, so the clearest impact that oil prices have on the Russian economy is in shrinking or expanding the government budget. That said, the impact on the Russian government is not immediate when oil prices drop. The government has a reserve fund to ride out market fluctuations and short-term dips in the price of oil. Do not concern the Russian government nearly as much as a prolonged slide. The other thing you have to take into consideration is that Russia, along with some other countries, are involved in the BRICS Bank. And I keep bringing this up because I think it's very, very important, especially for the fact that it is competing now with the United States in terms of debt. And the population using the BRICS system is higher. So over time, eventually, those people who are trying to get ahead in life, who are in developing countries, are going to be bringing on or taking on more debt. And because Russia is a part of that, using the same type of Federal Reserve type system that we have, are going to make a ton of money in the long run, while Western banks and Western finances are going to go on the wayside. It says the dominance of oil and gas in the government revenues is mirrored in Russia's export mix. Around half of Russia's total exports in terms of value are made up of oil and gas. So you're talking about, it's basically half of their economy gets affected, their revenue. So this is a massive, massive sting to Russia in particular. So, I mean, I really hope that Russia has a big enough reserve to ride this out. But we're talking, it almost got cut in half in a matter of weeks. In fact, I think it was like 1 week it dropped because of the oversupply. So anyways, I just wanted to get this video out there because I believe that Russia and Saudi Arabia are in some ways colluding, not only for Russia, but also towards Iran, because Iran is also the same way. It's funded mostly by its oil, and it's because it has a pipeline into Europe. So you gotta understand that you know, when you look at like a free market, if Samsung and Google and HTC or Sony or whoever is competing, they're competing for the market. But when you look at governments around the world, they're competing for resources, and they do it by means of military force and psychological warfare, and propaganda. And the way that they are going to convince you to just allow, say for example, the United States and Saudi Arabia to stay in Yemen and basically starve the whole population there. There's like 15 million people starving, most of them women and children, because all the men have fled to fight. So the situation in Yemen is awful, which is led by the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. That's just one. That's not even including what's going on, or what was going on before Donald Trump came in. The whole Syria thing. And then you got ISIS, which was created by the U.S. government, which Donald Trump takes credit for basically destroying, which I think is still hilarious. But they are trying to get people to believe that the U.S. and all these countries are just roses all the way up to the top, and that's not true at all. They're all corrupt. They all need to stay in their own lanes, and they need to bring home all the troops that are fighting unnecessary wars. If you're going to station troops in Europe and all these other places for defense, great. That's fine. Let them defend whatever it is they're defending out there, but do not get involved in firefights and artillery strikes and everything else that's unnecessary. I hope that people in the military understand what they're doing, what they have been doing, why they're doing it, and I hope that they understand that while people might think that the military is protecting the United States, but realistically it's protecting the economy. And it's the war economy, it's the commodities markets, it's the stock markets. That's what they protect. They're protecting the wealth of the United States, and they don't care. Politicians don't care about your lives. What they care about is the engine that drives the government, and they want to expand it. And what we should really be fighting for is the reduction of government, not the expansion. So anyways, this will end my video. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving and the holidays and everything. And I'll see you in the next video. Not this one. It's the next one. Here we go.